Hey guys, welcome to my review of House of the Dragon. I decided to review House of the Dragon right now because in the show it's about to go to a 10-year time skip. If I am if I'm to be correct, it's gonna be a 10-year time skip from the last episode up to episode 6. So from episode 5 to episode 6, it's gonna be a decade time skip, and I thought this would be the perfect time to review the show, especially now that it's going to be a huge change. The actors for Rhaenyra, Alicent, Lena, and Laenor will, I think, be changed. I'm sure that Rhaenyra, Alicent, and Lena's actresses will be different now after the time skip. I don't know for Laenor, but I assume it's going to be different since his sibling is going to be played by a different person as well. So, yeah, I would just like to say that off the bat, like, great performance from the actors for Rhaenyra and Alicent, young adult Rhaenyra and young adult Alicent. I think they did a great job, like, performing with their characters and setting up the events that will be the Dance of Dragons. Not the Dance of Dragons book from the mainline Game of Thrones books, the Song of Ice and Fire. I mean, the Dance of Dragons, the conflict that happens in the events of the book Fire and Blood. Now, House of the Dragon is based from the book Fire and Blood, which takes place way, way, way before the events of Game of Thrones. And, reading Fire and Blood is like, reading a Wikipedia version of a historical event. You don't really get to see the motivations, the emotions, the relationships, and but most importantly enough, the truth of what happened to said events of these individual characters in the story. Because in the books, it's the events are being told from two people with their versions of the story are different, and the other is a street performer. So I don't know if you can trust like what happens in the books entirely. Like, and this is what I like about the show. It's giving more context to what happens. Like from this episode to episode 5, I mean, there are some events from the books that are in these episodes, but most of it is developing these characters and setting up their motivations and setting up this building up conflict that is probably gonna start in the latter 5 episodes of this series. So I think the show is gonna have 10 episodes. We're at the 5th, and it ends on quite the note. And I think this is where the true main event of the story starts to take place. Now, Alicent and Rhaenyra, compared to the books, they've always been sort of rivals, sort of like not liked each other in the books. In the show, it's different. They changed it up. Rhaenyra and Alicent are childhood friends, and that sort of changes when Alicent marries Viserys. Rhaenyra pretty much hated that, and slowly she started to get along with Alicent again, because I guess now that Viserys wants Rhaenyra to be wed, she sort of like understands what Alicent is going through. Being married to someone she obviously doesn't want to be married to, and for the sole purpose of just giving birth to heirs. And that's where they sort of mend their relationships. But the events of episode 4 happen, where Rhaenyra goes to a brothel, and she sort of like almost has sex with her uncle Daemon Targaryen. It didn't happen. She ended up sleeping with Kristen Cole, I guess, I guess Rhaenyra didn't want to have the proverbial blue balls that night, you know? She needed to get that out of her system. She slept with Kristen Cole. And then, Otto Hightower found out about Rhaenyra going to a brothel. And, he accused Rhaenyra of sleeping with her uncle Daemon. He told the king. And, of course, Alicent find out. She confronted Rhaenyra. And Rhaenyra lied to her. She said nothing happened between her and her uncle Daemon, which is partly correct. I mean, they didn't have sex, but they were making out. They were probably dry humping up there, and yeah. In episode 5, she finds out differently that that Rhaenyra did in fact sleep with someone, and turned out to be Kristen Cole, which I think that was the last straw for Alicent. And technically, Rhaenyra didn't exactly lie to Alicent. She said that nothing happened between her and her uncle, but in Alicent's eyes, Rhaenyra was swearing to her upon the grave of her mother that she didn't have sex that night, that she was still a maiden. And I think that kind of, broke Alicent's heart. That her only friend, that her only real friend, since everyone treats her like the queen now, her only real friend was Rhaenyra. And, she found out that Rhaenyra lied to her. I mean, she didn't have sex with Daemon, but she did have sex with not Alicent, Kristen Cole. And I think that broke Alicent's heart, and not only that gave her the sort of realization that she's not safe, that she can't trust Rhaenyra anymore, because Rhaenyra is willing to lie to her best friend. Rhaenyra lied to Alicent, and now Alicent probably feels that her safety and the safety of her children are in danger because of Rhaenyra. Because she can't trust Rhaenyra. I mean, I think Alicent always knew that, her sons would probably have a claim to the throne as well, that the realm would be behind her son, Aegon. But, unfortunately, Rhaenyra is named heir. And in order for Rhaenyra to secure the Iron Throne, she'd have to probably get rid of, Alicent's sons. Which, of course, in the last episode, we saw that from Otto Hightower. He said that, Rhaenyra is gonna press her claim. And the realm will not be behind Rhaenyra, so she has to show that she is the rightful heir to the throne. And the only way she could probably do that is to put Alicent's sons, and probably even Alicent herself, to the sword. Like, Alicent's entire line, from her to her sons, and maybe her daughter too. She's not safe. She's gonna die. She's gonna fucking die if, Rhaenyra is gonna pursue being the queen of the Seven Kingdoms. Alicent wanted to believe that, Rhaenyra could be a trustworthy friend, but after finding out that she lied to Alicent, I think that's when the realization set in that, she has to fight. She has to fight for her place and the place of her kids, because she's not safe. She's not safe. Now, would Rhaenyra actually do that? Would Rhaenyra actually kill Alicent and her children just to be in the throne? I don't know. Like, if Alicent, was still friends with Rhaenyra, I don't know if that would have been the case. I guess, even if that were the case, I think Rhaenyra would still have to, find a way to unite the realm, because the lords would probably want Aegon to rule. So the only way she could probably rule is to either send Alicent's sons to the wall or kill them. And I think the safer option would be just to get rid of their line completely. Because in the books of A Song of Ice and Fire, Jon Snow is, he's in the Night's Watch. He's the commander. But, he still could be a major player. Especially since the show pretty much confirms that he is the son of Lyanna and Rhaegar. He's a Targaryen and a Stark, which could give him, which means he could be the one that would end up in the Iron Throne in the end, in the books. In the show, it didn't end quite so differently, Bran as the king? Well, I don't know about that. I kind of hate that. I still hate it. Like, I hate the end of Game of Thrones. Like, I really hate the end of Game of Thrones. The last 2 seasons of Game of Thrones killed my love for Westeros, but thank God House of the Dragon sort of revived my love for the world of Westeros. And, I wasn't really hyped for House of the Dragons. Ever since that fucking ending to Game of Thrones. It was just... I wasn't really excited to watch House of the Dragon. I just decided to watch it and I was like, yeah. Fuck yeah, this is like OG Game of Thrones. Give me all that politic. In these 5 episodes, we didn't get much battles. Like, we had the battle with the Triarchy. It was just basically Daemon, suicide bombing himself, doing a Jon Snow type plot armor thing by charging alone in the battle, and then off-screen killing, the leader of the Triarchy, the Crab Feeder. But yeah, that was pretty much the only, huge battle. Most of what happens in episodes 1 to 5, it's all court stuff. It's all happening within King's Landing, all that politicking, and I think that's the advantage that House of Dragon has over Game of Thrones, is that right now, a lot of what's happening is within the Targaryen royal family and, the royal servants, the Hand, the Master of Coin, the Master of Ships, blah blah blah, blah blah blah. And Game of Thrones, it was just, full-scale war. And yeah, of course, there's gonna be a huge war in House of the Dragon, we're gonna have the Dance of Dragons, of course, and there's gonna be war. I'm excited for you guys to see a lot of what's gonna happen. And I wonder how the show is gonna interpret this, and if they're gonna change some of the stuff that happens from the books and into the show. And so far, the changes they made, they aren't they aren't that bad, in my opinion. They seem mostly minor changes. The only major one, I think, is, Rhaenyra and Alicent's age. Most of it is how, a scene plays out differently in the Fire and Blood books. How Daemon gives his crown to Viserys, or how, how Kristen Cole kills Joffrey. And let's circle back to Otto Hightower. I really like the character of Otto Hightower in the show. I think, I don't know, he seems complex. Of course he's a scheming guy. He's definitely doing it for the benefit of House Hightower, but at the same time, what I said earlier about, Rhaenyra's probably gonna have to kill Alicent's kids. That's what Otto said to Alicent. He said that, probably not just because he wants his line on the throne, but of course he wants Alicent to be safe. He even hugged her in the end. He cared for Alicent when she was picking at her nails, at her skin. And of course now she's saying that, hey, you have to politic, you have to fight You have to make sure your son Aegon is gonna rule because you will always be a threat to Rhaenyra, and you know that's gonna happen. That's gonna happen. Gonna happen. Well, solid spoiler alert. It's gonna happen. It is the story of Alicent versus Rhaenyra, Aegon versus Rhaenyra, Aegon versus Rhaenyra's sons. This is the dance of dragons. And it's a bloody war. And you could say it's the peak of the Targaryens. It's gonna be the fall of Targaryens, whatever. I'm excited for you guys to see it. Now, other characters in the show. Aside from Otto, we got, Viserys Targaryen, the current king right now in the show. And of course, Daemon Targaryen, the king's brother. And oh, I love them. I just love them. Like, Viserys is obviously a weak king. He's indecisive. He makes decisions that obviously are gonna make things worse. But he's also made decisions that are surprisingly smart, like, stripping Otto as hand of the king. He also manages to secure an alliance with the Velaryons, despite, angering Corlys by not marrying his daughter. So he decides to marry Rhaenyra to Laenor, which is perfect. And of course, I think the last episode, episode 5, he talks about, how he wished he would have been tested. Like, he feels like he would have been a better king, like, if there was conflict, or he would have been tested. And I think this is just peak Viserys, like, just showing how much of a weak king he is. Like, obviously his heart is in the right place, but he's been tested multiple times already. Like, he's been tested with the succession. Like, what choice is he gonna make for the succession? Obviously, what he does is gonna set up a huge conflict. He had the opportunity to actually fight in a war, like fight against the Triarchy. He didn't. It ended up Daemon and Lord Corlys had to do that. And of course, the fight that happens in the wedding, like the wedding of his own daughter. This is a royal wedding, by the way. His daughter is marrying someone from a very powerful house, and a fight ensues and nothing happens. And goddamn well that Kristen Cole is gonna get away with that. And that just shows that you are being tested, Viserys. You are being tested, and yet you're doing fuck all with what is happening. You would rather not do anything. You're so done with this shit. And I get why he's so done with this shit, because he's sick as hell. He's like decomposing. Like, he's gonna decompose for 10 more years, because if you've seen the previews for the next episode, he's still there, and like, he looks horrible. He's bald. He's balding. Like, the top of his head looks gross. Yeah. It's such a downfall for Viserys. But also, I think, like, you kind of feel for him in this show. In the books, he's sort of like, yeah, he's a weak king. That's pretty much it. But here, you kind of get the feel for him. Like, the saying is true in this case. Heavy is the head that wears the crown. Now, let's move on to his brother. Like, Daemon. Whoo! Obviously, Daemon's already a fan favorite at this point, and I agree. I think he is probably one of my favorites as well. I want him, despite everything he does, I think, I want to see him triumph. I want to see Daemon Targaryen triumph in this story. And, the books kind of make him more morally gray, morally ambiguous. And the show, it's kind of leaning towards the villainous side. Like you see him do things for his benefit. Like in episode 5, he kills his wife because because not only does he inherit the lands that are promised to his wife, Rhea Royce, that means he can also marry for political gain. Like, of course, he wanted to marry Rhaenyra, but that's not gonna happen anytime soon. But he is gonna get married, and I think this is a better, more suitable marriage for him. And if you've seen the previews, I think you can piece 2 and 2 together who he's gonna marry. And yeah, I just like Daemon. Like, I feel like people were expecting him to be more morally gray, but I think the show is leaning towards the villainous side. Obviously, he at the start of episode 1, he just he just leads the gold cloaks to fucking massacre some of the townsfolk, and allegedly those people are criminals. But I don't know, how can you tell? It's the dark. It's outside in the dark. There's no electricity in this area, so you got torches and lights, and I don't know how easily you can tell if this person is a criminal. Maybe they were caught in the act, but it wasn't really shown like that in the show. To me, it just seems like Daemon was getting his gold cloaks to mutilate people at the dark. Just randomly mutilating people, cutting off cocks and limbs and all of that. But yeah, I love Daemon. I love his dragon Caraxes. I just want to see that boy win. Other underrated characters. We got the Strong family. We got Lord Lionel Strong, and I think he's the only guy in this show that actually cares about the realm. He's giving Viserys sound advice, and I don't think he's actually in it for benefit. His son Larys, though, that guy is the eyes and ears of the capital, King's Landing, and he's sort of the guy that sets up the conflict by letting Alicent know, hey, the Maester gave something to Rhaenyra. Maybe she's sick, but of course he's hinting at the fact that Rhaenyra is taking a sort of medieval morning after pill, and that's what Alicent understands, which leads her to question Christine Cole, and then she finds out, blah blah blah, comes to the comes to the wedding wearing a green dress, and according to Larys himself, that is the color of Old Town. When the banners of Old Town, that's the color when they declare war. And yeah, I really love that scene. I really love the scene. The music was amazing. Alicent walking down the feast, and then Larys and his brother Harwin talking, and Harwin's sort of not shown as much yet, but I think he's gonna be a major player in the next few episodes, because he's hyped up as the strongest character living right now in House of the Dragon. He's Harwin Breakbones strong. And of course, Larys the clubfoot. He has his own agenda. I don't know if he's working on his own interests, or if his father is actually playing both sides. I don't know. I assume Larys is in it for himself. I feel like being a clubfoot like him, being limp, is sort of like being an imp, being like Tyrion. People look down on him. Because you can see in the earlier episodes, Larys wasn't participating in the hunt. He was just, sitting with all the other ladies in the tent, gossiping with them. And I think that's Larys' strong point. He's listening to to whatever information he can get, and then he's like subtly. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce subtly, like, you know, sprinkling that information he learns onto others. And I think he's also spying too, because you can see in episode 4 that there are secret passages within the Red Keep, and I think Laris might be using it. From what I've seen from previews that I see Laris like looking through somewhere, and I think that's what he does. And of course, Damon also does that in one of the episodes when the council, the small council, was shit talking Damon. He was there listening, and yeah, I just love this show. There's so much to talk about, but I don't want to. I don't want you guys to waste. I don't want to waste you guys' time. But yeah, I just revived my love for this world, the world of Westeros, and you know, with the way Game of Thrones ended, I didn't think I'd feel this way again. Now I'm excited for all these series that might happen, like, you know, Robert's Rebellion, the story of Dunk and Egg. I'm excited for that, and it made me want to buy more books. I've never read the Dunk and Egg book, so I want to read that. And of course, I'm reading again, you know, the books of A Song of Ice and Fire. And, you know, George R. Martin, come on, man, finish the rest. I just want to read. I want to know what happens. And yeah. If you haven't watched Game of Thrones, I would recommend watching from seasons 1 until 6. I think the Battle of the Bastards is a great send-off for the show. Like, yeah, just watch it and assume that's the ending and just make up your own headcanon on what's gonna happen. But yeah, and if you're wondering if you should watch Game of Thrones first before House of the Dragon, I don't think you need to watch Game of Thrones to watch House of the Dragon first. You can watch House of the Dragon first. But I think a lot of other people who watch House of the Dragon have already watched Game of Thrones. So I think if you're like gonna have want to talk to other people, like have a discussion with them, I think you're bound to run into a Game of Thrones reference or a Game of Thrones spoiler. So, you know, I don't know, it was 50-50. You could watch House of the Dragons first, then Game of Thrones, or watch Game of Thrones first, then House of the Dragon, or you could just not watch Game of Thrones, I guess. I don't know. But yeah. Ooh, what a show. What a show. I'm really excited for what's gonna happen next. And, you know, if there's anything else you want to talk about, leave a comment down. I think I sort of focused on episode 5 more, because that's much more recent in my memory. But, you know, there's a lot of amazing stuff that happens. It's a gradual build-up to conflict, to the main event, to the Dance to the Dragons. And of course, we got a nice battle, a nice battle with, you know, Daemon and the Velaryons versus the Triarchy. It was a nice battle. I love seeing Laenor Velaryon just riding as a dragon, sea smoke, and having fun. Oh, yeah, it's amazing. And, you know, this show's really a lot about succession. You know, the show starts off with King Jaehaerys naming Viserys, his son, the new king, the heir to the throne, instead of Rhaenys Targaryen, and sort of the effects of that still linger. You can still see that Rhaenys is kind of bitter about that, because, you know, she has the nickname the Queen Who Never Was. And of course, Corlys loves his wife, and I think, you know, the Velaryons have their own interests. You know, they sort of want their line on the throne, and I think, you know, kind of want the name Velaryon on the throne, but they don't want to overextend themselves. So I think they're just satisfied with, you know, Laenor being the king consort. But I don't think they know that Laenor's kids aren't his. And, you know, that's not a spoiler. It's obvious that in the preview of the next episode, it's obvious that Rhaenyra's kids aren't Laenor, considering they got dark hair. And I'm pretty sure there are dark hair within the Targaryen line. But of course, since Rhaenyra married Laenor, both of them had, like, you know, ashen blonde hair. The fact that they have dark-haired children is kind of it's kind of suspicious. You know, hair color is what led to Ned Stark finding out about Robert Baratheon. Robert Baratheon's kids not being his. So there's that, and there's so much more characters. Like, I haven't even gone into Kristen Cole yet. Kristen fucking Cole, like, like, you know, you really expect, you know, you expect that he's like this good, honorable knight, but it's obvious that he's at least trying to be, and then, you know, he does something in this last episode, which was, whoa, that's one of the more gory scenes of the Game of Thrones universe, in my opinion. I haven't, like, cringed at the sight of something since the mountain just crushed Oberyn. But yeah, just seeing Kristen Cole beat Joffrey to death was wow. So I guess, you know, if your name is Joffrey, don't attend a wedding, because weddings to Joffrey Zero at this point. Yeah, Kristen Cole, like, if you read the books, you know what's gonna happen. If you haven't read the books, you know, you're probably shocked at what's happening. Let's just say, you know, Kristen Cole is human, to say the least. And what's going through him, I don't know. I think he's a guy who's trying to be a knight, but it's fucking up, and it makes him, and it sort of lingers in him. It sort of messes with him, the fact, you know, because, you know, he didn't really beat Daemon honorably when they thought he, like, hit him with a mace at the back of the head, and then of course he slept with Rhaenyra, which kind of feel for Kristen Cole at that time, because, you know, I think people found out Rhaenyra and him slept together, it would be worse off for him than it would be Rhaenyra. The worst that could happen to Rhaenyra is, oh, her claim gets challenged again, which is already the case, and or, like, she wouldn't have that many suitors because people would think she's been sullied because she's not a virgin anymore. And of course, that's not really a big deal for Rhaenyra, I think. And of course, for Kristen Cole, like, if people found out that he broke his vows as a Kingsguard, you know, he could be executed, or he could have his dick cut off and sent to the wall. Either way, he's fucked. Well, I guess he knew that, so he just decided to, oh, I'm just gonna fuck anyway, considering, like, if I refuse, I might incur the princess's wrath. Or, you know, that. But yeah, I like the show. I like that there's also symbolism in the show, like Viserys getting cut and continually getting, you know, continually decomposing, continually rotting. It kind of symbolizes that he's not worthy of the Iron Throne, and the throne is rejecting him, and the more he tries to be king, the more he fucks up, and the more he rots away. And I also love the white stag from the other episode. You know, you see Viserys, you know, his followers, his supporters kind of hype up this white stag, and they end up finding a normal colored stag, and, you know, they kill it anyway, and Viserys kind of doesn't kill it in the first try, and that just shows how unworthy Viserys is. Like, the white stag didn't show him something, but it did show to Rhaenyra. The white stag did show itself to Rhaenyra, and Rhaenyra didn't kill it, which could mean that Rhaenyra's maybe worthy. Maybe because the white stag showed itself to Rhaenyra that she could be worthy, but she didn't kill it. You know, if she killed it, would that mean that she is undeniably the true heir? Like, I feel like if she had actually killed that white stag, that would have strengthened her claim. Could her not killing the white stag symbolize that she won't be queen? Something to ponder upon. Something to ponder upon. Yeah, I just love talking about this show. Like, Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon are the only shows where I love to look at other people's discussions on Reddit, on Quora, on YouTube comment sections, and of course, I love seeing reactions from people, especially the Burlington Bar. I love seeing those people's reactions to certain scenes that happen in Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon. And now I can finally watch that channel again to see their reactions. It's great. It's great. It's amazing. I love it. I love it. I love watching these shows. Oh. And I just can't wait for the next final 5 episodes. I wonder if we're gonna get to the war, or this whole season is just the prelude to the main war. We'll see. We'll see. I'm excited. But yeah, if you haven't watched House of the Dragon, you know, go ahead, start watching it. Let's go for it. But I don't know if the people watching here are people who haven't watched House of the Dragon. I'm marking this review as a spoiler review, so yeah. If you want to discuss more, if there's a lot of points that I left out, comment section is right there. Or you could DM me, whatever. You want to be... I don't know. Just feel free. I love hearing people's opinions and talking to them about, you know, about the show and even books, if you guys like to read the books. So, I leave you guys with this question. Who are you more sympathetic to? Alicent or Rhaenyra? Let me know down in the comments below, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.